Mr. Armitage,
Yeah,
you killed your wife. You're the abusive husband, Mr. Armitage.
I'll reply to your email, okay?
On a September morning in 2004, a walker on a lonely path high in the Yorkshire Dales made a terrible discovery. In a stream near the mountain of Pen-y-ghent, the body of a woman lay in the water. She had no shoes, no coat, no bag, no identification of any kind. She wore green jeans, a striped t-shirt, and a single gold wedding ring made in Bangkok. She had no name that anyone could find. No missing person report matched her. No family came looking. For 15 years, she was known only by the wild, beautiful place where she was found. The Lady of the Hills. One woman, one mountain stream, 15 years of nothing. For a decade and a half, British police searched across the entire world for her identity, appealing in language after language, country after country. And for 15 years, the Hills kept her secret, until, at last, a family half a world away saw her face on the news and finally gave her back her name. Her name was Lamduan Armitage. And this is the story of how the Lady of the Hills was finally identified, and why, more than 20 years later, the biggest question of all is only now being asked. Welcome to Crime Watch UK, where no case stays cold forever. Let's go back to the beginning. The Yorkshire Dales, North Yorkshire, England. One of the most stunning landscapes in Britain. Rolling green hills, dry stone walls, and the great flat-topped peak of Pen-y-ghent, one of the region's famous 3 peaks. Running across it is the Pennine Way, a long-distance walking trail that draws hikers from all over the world. On Monday, the 20th of September, 2004, at around 11:30 in the morning, a man walking near Pen-y-ghent came upon something that stopped him cold. In a stream called Wisbech, in a well-used spot, on a popular trail, lay the body of a woman. This wasn't a hidden grave in the wilderness. It was a place walkers passed all the time, and yet the body had been there, undisturbed, for a while. Investigators would come to believe she had died somewhere between 1 and 3 weeks before she was found. And from the very first moment, there was a mystery within the mystery, because there was almost nothing to tell them who she was. Let's talk about what they could tell. The woman appeared to be of Southeast Asian origin. She had dark, shoulder-length hair. She was petite, just under 5 feet tall. Investigators estimated her age somewhere between 25 and 35. She had healthy teeth, with a distinctive little gap at the front. Her ears were pierced, though no earrings were found. She was dressed in green jeans and a green and white striped t-shirt, and on her finger was a wedding ring, 22-karat gold, made in Bangkok, Thailand. But that was almost all. No shoes, no warm outer clothing, despite the cold and the remote location. No handbag, no phone, no wallet, no documents, nothing that carried a name. A married woman, thousands of miles from where her ring was made, lying in a Yorkshire stream, with every trace of her identity somehow absent. And here was the deepest puzzle of all. A post-mortem examination could not even establish how she had died. There was no obvious sign of violence. Hypothermia was ruled out. The cause of death was, simply, unexplained. Who was she, and how did she end up here? For 15 years, no one could answer either question. North Yorkshire police did not treat this lightly. They launched an enormous investigation. They questioned walkers along the Pennine Way. They carried out house-to-house inquiries in the surrounding villages. They wrote to local holiday accommodation, appealing for witnesses in multiple languages. They chased down every reported sighting of a woman, matching her description across the whole of the Yorkshire Dales. Forensic analysis gave them tantalizing clues. It suggested the woman had been living in the UK for at least 2 years before her death, probably somewhere in the northwest of England, in Cumbria, Lancashire, or the Western Dales. But which country was she originally from? Investigators simply couldn't be sure. They considered Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, later even the Philippines, China, or Korea. In December 2004, they produced an e-fit image of her and sent it to the embassies of numerous Asian countries. No meaningful response came back. In February 2005, they appealed on the BBC's Crime Watch. In 2007, an inquest heard there was no evidence of trauma, assault, or drowning, and recorded an open verdict. The Lady of the Hills remained exactly that, a mystery with no name. But North Yorkshire police never let her go. In 2011, they reopened a set of unsolved deaths, and the Lady of the Hills was among them. And then science began to do what old-fashioned appeals could not. A scientist named Dr. Wolfram Meyer-Augenstein applied a technique called stable isotope analysis. In simple terms, the chemical signatures locked into a person's body, in their hair, their teeth, their bones, carry a record of where they lived and what they ate as they grew up. And when he analyzed the Lady of the Hills, the isotopes pointed to one place. She had likely grown up in Thailand. For the first time in years, the search had a direction. And in 2018, North Yorkshire police did something forward-thinking. They took their appeal to social media, posting it not just in English, but in Thai and Filipino, so it could be shared across the world, deep into the communities where she might have come from. They cast the net, once more, across the whole planet, and this time, someone was watching. On the 22nd of January, 2019, nearly 15 years after the body was found, a family in Thailand came forward. They had seen the case, and they believed they knew who the Lady of the Hills was. They told police about a woman who had married a British man in 1991 and moved to England, a daughter, a sister, a mother, a woman whose family, back in Thailand, had not heard from her since 2004. Think about that. For 15 years, a mother in Thailand, a grandmother named Jumsri, had been trying to find her missing daughter, reaching out through government agencies and the British Embassy, never knowing that her daughter had been lying, unidentified, in a Yorkshire stream the entire time. North Yorkshire police carried out DNA testing to be certain, and on the 19th of March 2019, they confirmed it. The Lady of the Hills had a name at last. Lamduan Armitage, born Lamduan Sikanya in Udon Thani Province, Thailand. So who was she? Lamduan was from Thailand, born in 1968. She married a British man, David Armitage, and moved with him to England, settling in the north of the country. She was a mother of 3. Friends who knew her described her as a lovely woman. For 15 years, she'd been a nameless figure in a stream. Now, finally, she was a person again, with a family, a hometown, a face, a mother whose children had grown, and whose own mother had never stopped searching. Giving her back her name was a genuine triumph, the reward for 15 years of refusing to give up. But it also opened a door that had been closed all along. Because now that they knew who she was, investigators could finally ask the question that had been impossible to ask before. Not just who was she, but what happened to her. Here is where this case turns from a mystery of identity into something far darker. Remember, the cause of death had never been established. There was no obvious sign of violence. For years, it had officially been an unexplained death. But when a cold case review dug deeper and scientific advances allowed police to piece together a far more detailed picture of the woman and her final movements, they reached a chilling conclusion. They concluded that she had been killed. An unexplained death in a remote stream had become, in the eyes of investigators, a murder. And so the question became, who? Naturally, attention turned to the people closest to her. In 2019, her husband, David Armitage, was located. He denied any involvement in his wife's death. In February 2023, British detectives traveled all the way to Thailand to push the investigation forward. They wanted to interview David Armitage, who was living there. He refused to speak to them. The case had a name. It had a conclusion, that she'd been unlawfully killed, but it still did not have an answer. And then, 20 years after the Lady of the Hills was found, the case surged back to life. In January 2025, Thai authorities arrested David Armitage at his home in Kanchanaburi Province, Thailand, in connection with his wife's death. The arrest followed a formal international request from the UK. He was detained in Bangkok, facing visa proceedings, and North Yorkshire police made clear that if he returned to the UK, they would make every effort to speak to him. On the 2nd of February 2025, David Armitage flew back to the United Kingdom, and the moment he arrived at Heathrow Airport, he was arrested. The statement from North Yorkshire police was direct. A 61-year-old man had been arrested on suspicion of the murder of Lamduan Armitage in 2004. But it's important to be honest about where this case stands, because it is not over. David Armitage was arrested on suspicion of murder. He was not charged. He was released on conditional bail while inquiries continue, and he has denied any involvement in his wife's death. Under the law, he is entitled to the presumption of innocence. No court has decided this case. The full truth of what happened to Lamduan Armitage on that mountain in 2004 has still not been established, which is why, to this day, the police are still appealing for help. They've asked anyone who knew Lamduan and her family to come forward, specifically people who knew them when they lived in Stockport, near Doncaster, in South Yorkshire, and in Preston, in Lancashire, in 2004. They are trying, more than 20 years later, to reconstruct the final chapter of a life that was hidden for so long. The Lady of the Hills has her name. What she still doesn't have is justice. Think about what this case really tells us. For 15 years, a mountain stream in Yorkshire kept a woman's secret. She had been stripped of everything that could identify her. No shoes, no bag, no papers, and left in a place where, somehow, no one who passed could give her a name. The police searched the entire world for her, and for a decade and a half, they found nothing, but they never stopped. They followed the science, the isotopes locked in her body that whispered the word Thailand. They took their appeal onto social media, in her own language, and in the end, it was a mother who had never given up, and a family who recognized a face on the news, who reached across 15 years and half a world to bring her home. Lamduan Armitage was a mother of 3, thousands of miles from where she was born, who vanished into the hills of a foreign country in 2004. For 15 years, she had no name. Now she does. And now, at last, the people who loved her may finally get to ask, and one day, perhaps, answer, the question that the hills kept hidden for so long. What really happened to the Lady of the Hills? No case stays cold forever. If this story stayed with you, do one thing for a woman who spent 15 years without a name, and for the mother in Thailand who never stopped searching for her. Subscribe to Crime Watch UK and turn on notifications so you're there for the next development in this case, because it is still active and the truth is still being pursued. And if you knew Lamduan Armitage, if you knew a Thai woman and her family living in Stockport near Doncaster, or in Preston, back in 2004, North Yorkshire police still want to hear from you. Her name was the first answer. The last one is still out there, somewhere in the hills. We'll see you on the next one.